Taylor Taranto again. Part 4 kind of addendum, or appendix, rather. And whatever. We'll call it whatever. Anyways, we're going to actually curtail this into the news. I was hoping we could do a smooth transition into the news. And it's not really the news. This is end of the road news, by the way. And I think I did a really good job setting the tone. And we're going to talk, we're going to mostly commentary a little bit here. I thought that was a good idea, what I was saying. And in the news, we try, I know it doesn't always happen, to keep our opinions and stuff out of it. I certainly don't always do that. I figured if I'm going to start talking about my politics and stuff like that, certainly should take a sideline, and I certainly should interrupt your usual broadcast with a heads up. Hey, these are my thoughts. Actually, all these, for the most part, is my thoughts. Certainly, I am reporting the news. A lot of times, especially stuff that's totally exclusive and really good, really, really, really good. A lot of people actually tune into this new generation in America. I think this is almost exclusive in America. These podcast people do. I'm actually one of the founders of this stuff. When it comes to January 6th stuff, I don't know very many people that actually started after I started doing these things. I think these other guys, I don't know anything about their show, so I'm not gonna. But maybe they're fake J6ers, maybe they're fake Trump supporters. Who knows? I do know that I will toot my own horn and say I'm the best, and that's for damn sure. So, and if you tune into my show regularly, you probably think the same thing. In fact, a lot of people in history are probably going to say, "Oh, he was the best J6er." No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Anyways, let's see here. Where are we going to go? Okay, let's talk about the inapplicability of authority here. So we're going to talk about that these people that aren't elected, they appoint these people, judges, judicial, DOJ, officials, etc. They have no power. They're powerless. As you can see throughout a lot of these cases, especially mine, the ones that you've seen, they're totally powerless, totally fruitless, unless they get these softball things lobbed to them. But the thing is, the media is so complicit in this stuff and propagating this stuff as if it's true. And a lot of this isn't. A lot of this stuff is going to be recycled. A lot of this stuff is going to get thrown away. And now, in fact, we're probably going to undo everything. So good luck as they try to keep setting precedent, all this other nonsense. It's not helpful. They haven't seen any real fruits of their labor. Pretty much, they're powerless. They're toothless. They're powerless. All they have is a media that lies and keeps their racket going. And it's a racket, people. It's a racket. You'll see all this stuff. So, yeah, it's just a taste. They know it's right around the corner. They have no other choice but to steal the election again. So, what else? I don't know how much good it's going to do. I really don't. Anyway, let's talk about the DOJ and all their policies. We have these things called good officers, good officials, and they're somehow good, but really they're just powerless as well if they're under the authority of mindless zombies that are political weasels, like Merrick Garland, for example. A lot of these guys, the justice system here is totally toast, America. So don't expect much as far as justice, or in the name of justice anymore, because it's a top-down authoritarian approach ever since we became a federalist society. States' rights don't apply anymore. The Supreme Court doesn't give a shit about the state. Don't give a shit about anything except for itself, its own power, and keeping it and maintaining it. So at this point, it's toast. There's no reciprocity. There's no end to the legal jurisdiction that the federal government is willing to give itself. And it really, this is it. This is the end. This is the end. So I don't really know how to stress that. But I'll show you how, policy numbs the good soldier, the soldier of the law, or whatever you want to call them, officials. They're really not. They're not officials, and they certainly aren't under any credible use, in my opinion. These are the good cops. We call them the good cops. Good cop, bad cop. And the good cops, while they're willing to listen to authority, that's about all they are. That's all they're good for. But they certainly still follow policies, and they're certainly neutered. But the DOJ does not follow its own policies, especially when it becomes political. So they're really really scared of Donald Trump, and with good reason. He's free. He's a free man. He is so free, and I'll tell you why he's free. And I'm not going to mince words here. I'm not going to tell you that he's like the greatest guy in the world. He's great, one of the greatest Americans ever to live, and certainly that's because he believes in economic freedom, and that's important because, you know, a lot of people think that money corrupts and stuff. It's probably not. You look at all the Democrats in office, and they're so corrupt. They don't have money. They don't have a pot to piss in, but they're constantly taxing the shit out of us, and they're stealing our wealth away, and Trump is putting a stop to it. And so they're corrupt. They have tons of power, way too much unchecked power. And Trump, who plays by the rules, we'll call him the good cop, is totally neutered right now. Not in the normal sense. He's running a very successful presidential campaign to the point where they're going to use the law, the courts, everything to come after him, his real supporters, his diehard supporters, the ones that aren't going to just flippantly cave to the pressures of a fake government. Anyways, so not to say I'm like the best, but I'm certainly probably his best supporter, and I think it's because I envy him as a man, a free man, and I love him because he understands the power of the dollar, and he's not a weasel with it. He's actually very giving, very charitable. He's a great giver, and that's how you typically measure successful people, is not how much money they have, like Elon Musk doesn't, but how much they're willing to give. You know, I don't even want to talk about Elon Musk. He's such a weasel. He's such a shitbird. He gets all of his wealth from the government and a shitty regulated marketplace, like the stock markets, where people invest. Anyone can invest in his shit companies. All of them are shit. And I'll tell you why later. Obviously, you can go look up criticisms of him, but the biggest part is he's a total statist, total socialist, advocates for that monthly payment for every American kind of stuff. You know, it's very socialist. And it's because he tells us we gotta be worried about AI, like his AI companies and stuff that he starts and then walks away from it. Oh yeah, I was against it, but now I'm for it. Oh, I'm against it again. Oh, I'm gonna start my own. And it's the same one, the same, and anyone can do it. Oh, I'm so open source, blah 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 blah. And oh, you gotta be aware of all these other companies. You gotta fear these other companies. And most of his money comes from the taxpayers, and that's how he started his thing. But you know, Donald Trump has been financially messed over a lot of times by the government and their overregulation, tax burden, penalties like this New York case that's just ridiculous, where they trying to shut his entire operation down in New York. He can't operate because of a crappy judge who is totally partial, complicit in a bunch of crimes and stuff. And it's obvious, you know, you can see that a lot with all these cases that are ongoing right now under a Biden regime. And there's a reason for it. It's because they've lost. They're totally scared, and they need the media to push their propaganda. So, you know, the DOJ does not use their own policies. They allowed, as I reported earlier, they've allowed to release the manifesto of this Ryan Ruth, or whatever his name is, the would-be assassin at Mar-a-Lago, whatever his name was. I guess that was it. Anyway, so, I mean, they posted the manifesto, which had a bounty. They didn't even partially release it. They did a full thing where they released it. That's totally against gun policy. And these bozos who say they're, you know, I'm sure they're going to talk bad about the bad cops, but I'm really actually going to point the finger at the good cops. These bozos that work for these bad cops are still saying that, you know, oh, well, we're the good guys. And it's like, well, you know, you're kind of not. You know, if you work for these people, whether you're for them or against them or whatever, you still work for them. And there's a reason I advocate for privatization of a lot of things, everything practically. Everything should be privatized, as well as some things should be, we'll just say, definitely scaled back. So there's a reason we don't have a military that's super huge and large. It's not because they're recruiting figures. They can always rope and bone people into joining the service all the time, especially to the court system. Oh, you know what? You could be good for and legal. Work for us. So, anyways, join the service. Anyway, there's a lot going on, and we shouldn't really just get caught up in pointing the finger at good cops or bad cops. So I'm going to put that disclaimer out there. I'm not saying we got to do something. We certainly can just sit back and watch it. It's all set up to fail, and it already has. So it's nothing that we didn't do. It's actually something we did, and it was vote for Donald Trump, and I think we're going to do it again. And I think he's going to win by a lot. Basically tripled his support. The Democratic Party is in total catastrophic freefall again for the second time in less than a year. That's after dumping Biden, who got all the delegates, and then ramming through the thick VP Harris as the presidential candidate of choice by making them basically vote. And then saying it was all very democratic. Yeah, right. They held a secret, basically secret, private conference, phone in, and all the delegates were just going to be basically unbound, and then they could vote for Harris, essentially, because there's no other people. They ran off all the other candidates. They scared them all away. So that's the kind of democracy the Democrats are proposing. It's just basically fascism, all the while calling Trump a fascist dictator. As you can see in the headlines, all these no-name loser generals that have no future, and their histories would be laid bare for the masses to study and say, wow, what a bunch of wackos, sickos. We're going to see a lot of their perversions on display, which is what they're really afraid of, and total sissy pantses when it comes to the battlefield. These were not good. These were not good trained generals and shit like that. These are the ones that we see on TV, as Trump calls them, the TV generals, are total wackadoodles, not worth study. They will be worth study after they're gone forever, because they don't really have any real victories under their belt. They're not real good. They're not good at anything, and that's who we've been promoting. When I was in the service, that's essentially, if you made rank, that's essentially what you saw. You saw a bunch of wow, that guy got promoted, and it was an open secret kind of thing. And that's the problem with a lot of societies and governments inside government.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Is that there's no accountability, and they only protect themselves, and they push each other up as they protect their inner orders. Real racists, real all sorts of stuff. That's a real thing. Gangs are still a thing. Gangs are in the military. Gangs are in the police force. You're seeing that with a lot of these January 6th investigations. White supremacists, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, you're seeing that, and it's an open secret. It's been like this for a long time. There's a reason why we have a lot of black people and not a lot of white people in here. And it's not because, I'm not going to go into that. I think you can hear some of my podcasts. Got a new roommate, a black guy, really nice guy. I do advocate for equal justice under the law. So we have to, if we're going to go after certain people, we can't really do it by race and stuff like that. So keep a lot of it.
Thank you for using Global Tel Link.